I have 8 random questions here. You pick 3 numbers, and whatever you get, that's where we start.
3.
Number 3 is wrap gifts. What is the most memorable wrap gift you've ever received or given?
Oh boy. Ever received or given? On my series, it wasn't even necessarily a wrap gift. I'm on this show called Fubar, and there was this one guy who kept taking pictures of our director and putting them on like paraphernalia that he'd wear, like shirts and buttons and things. And so our director, Phil Abraham, got him back, and there's just a hilarious, dumb photo of him eating an ice cream, and we all have shirts now that have him eating that ice cream, and it says Fubar Season 2, and we all put him on, and he, like, watching him realize that he's on everyone's shirt was just an amazing moment, and I keep wearing it. It's
brilliant.
Hilarious. A prank wrap gifts are probably the best.
I have not heard many stories about prank wrap gifts, and now I'm praying that I get even more when I ask that question in the future.
Yeah, because if the gift's too nice, it's awkward, and if it's not nice, then I gave out like mugs one year, and I regret it. But man, a prank T-shirt is a good one.
Now I have to follow up. What'd you give the mug for? And like, what was it about the mug that was special?
You know, there was it was for a show I did called The Good Cop. And we just like had like really last minute, it was like, what can we get turned around really fast? Because we all forgot. And it's just a mug that says The Good Cop. And then someone told me it's not dishwasher safe.
Oh no.
So just the worst. Now people have like navy blue mugs, but we got canceled. So maybe it needed to,
One time
wash off.
I bought mugs to like have my like YouTube logo on it.
Yeah.
They came in the mail, and like I casually started to use 1 or 2. I realized that the handles all fell off every time like you would hold it too tight. So, you know what? I understand how you feel.
Yeah. Why are these bad quality mugs being just sent around?
Hopefully we will stop that now, and everyone will just get T-shirts with awkward photos on them. That's where we should go.
Much better.
All right, so you picked a number 3. What is your next number of 8? 5. This is one of my favorites too.
Okay.
It is called Favorite, Least Favorite. I want to know your single favorite part of the acting process. You know, finding your character, meeting your co-stars, putting a costume on, whatever it may be. But then also not necessarily your least favorite, but just a part of the process where you still see room to grow for yourself.
Okay. I have a lot of favorite things. I feel really lucky to be an actor. One of my favorite things is learning new things. And I really got to on this film, and I just realized like what a gift that is. Because you get to, not only immerse yourself into a career that's not your own, and a lifestyle and all of that, but like you get to learn skills that you can, like I can still play guitar, and that's just something I've always wanted to do, and I got to carve out time in my workday to like learn how to do that, and I find that to be the most fun process. I also love costuming. That like playing dress up's pretty great, but I'd have to say learning things. Okay, least favorite thing. Well, I'll just say that like this sort of thing, like doing interviews and speaking as myself, was like a real comfort zone stretch for me. I've had to really learn how to just, be more comfortable speaking as myself, and like some of the social events and things like that are, they seem like really glamorous and exciting, but they can be very intimidating. So yeah, I can be kind of shy. So I think that has been like something that's been harder for me. But it's also really fun. I get to play dress up, and we put together and get to talk to you.
I was gonna say, thus far, I could not tell whatsoever, but I do, as someone who does all these interviews and then goes home and hibernates until I have to come out and do it again, I totally get it.
Yeah, totally. I think even if you're an extrovert, sometimes it's like, you still need to, it's the balancing act.
Oh yes, without a doubt. All right, your last number of 8, what is the final one?
8.
8 is bucket list. Can you just give me something on your acting bucket list that still remains?
On my acting bucket list, I want to incorporate, well, I've done a bit of this, but I want to do a film where dance is more of a prominent part of it. I used to be a dancer. I have only so much time left until I, probably body falls apart on me. No, that's negative. I'm sure I could dance for decades to come, but I would love to do a movie about dance.
It's a taxing art form. I do understand that.
Yeah.
I'm obviously obsessed with Wicked, like many people out there, and I started listening to John M. Chu's book, and he just obviously grew up in this industry, basically bringing next level forms of dance to screen. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna will a collaboration for the two of you into existence.
I mean, I have only heard the best things about that movie. I would love to work with him from everything I've heard. He's also a Bay Area guy, too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think dance is something that's just like so valuable for film, and I just think, I mean, also, you know, Zoe Saldana, watching her embrace all of her dance background, like it's cool that there's a theme of that this
Have you seen
this
Amelia Perez?
season. Yeah, and
El
she's
Mal is
incredible.
just mind-blowing to me.
Yeah, and so I think it's such a high value skill set that takes so long to learn, and so I think, you know, we should all do it when we can.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back for a new edition of Collider Ladies Night. I am so excited to welcome Monica Barbaro to the show for a complete unknown. I was going through the notes that I made while watching the movie, and there's just one that says, Monica, dash, wow, underline, underline, underline.
That's the best, thank you.
Hopefully that clearly conveys how I feel about your work in the film. Congratulations.
Thank you.
What is the movie you saw, the performance you saw, personal experience you had, whatever it may be, that first made you say to yourself, I absolutely have to be an actor?
There were two. When I was about 12 years old, I was a dancer and I was in the Nutcracker, and I was cast as Fritz, which is Clara, the lead of the ballet. It's her little brother who breaks her Nutcracker and sets things in motion. And he's a mischievous little, can I swear?
Go for it, yeah.
He's a mischievous little shit.
Yep.
And I just had so much fun embracing this sort of like side of my personality that I wasn't really allowed to have in my day-to-day life. And I was on stage. I felt like any choice I made was just like embraced as this character. And I just had such a blast doing that. And I was like, oh, that awoke something within me that is very different than anything I've experienced just dancing. I kind of just, I don't know, like unlocked something there. And then that same year we were studying Shakespeare, and I went to a school with a lovely arts program. And we all had to do A Midsummer Night's Dream. And I got to play Hermia for like half of I like split it with another girl. And I got to play Hermia for half of the production, and I knew my lines, I knew everyone else's lines, I knew her lines, I knew I put more work into that than I think I ever had on any other school assignment ever. And I realized then too that it was the kind of thing I could spend hours on alone working on, and I enjoyed working on with other people, and like time ceased to exist. And so I felt like that was a thing I needed to pursue and follow.
Beautiful experiences to have. You have that early on, but then when you go to NYU, you opt to study dance. I got a two-part question about that. What was it about a degree in dance that you thought was the right move for you at the time? And also, what did you envision yourself doing with that degree in the end?
Well, I was actually really terrified of becoming an actor. Around that time when I was 12, I was like, maybe I will pivot. Maybe I'll do acting instead. And I was encouraged by my parents to stay in dance. I was skilled in ballet, and it's a beautiful art form and you know, a difficult one and very prestigious. And so I stayed with it. And I had a friend community there, and some really excellent teachers. And so I stuck with that and sort of felt like maybe the performance side of that would feed the act, because there is a lot of acting in ballet as well. Yeah. So I stuck with that, and I, you know, considered going on a professional path, but kind of kept it at arm's length a little bit. But it was just like so deeply a part of my life that then when it came time to applying for schools, like I didn't really have acting experience. I was, aside from my dance experience, I couldn't like take a monologue and know really what to do with it. But I really was deep in the dance training and experience and all of that. So I think I kind of told myself I would go to NYU and then maybe like find a way to pivot conservatories or something like that.
I mean, in Tisch, you can do that? Maybe?
Kind of, you start over, basically. And the dance program's a 3-year program. So because dance careers are fairly short-lived, they work in your sort of what would be your last year into the summers. And so that was a 3-year program. And I thought, or I could reapply essentially to NYU and go to the acting program for 4 years, which would mean 5 years of college. And so I was like, I'm going to do this. And then in my last year, I'll figure out a way to put myself in some kind of position to train for acting. And while I was at Tisch, to their credit, they've got all kinds of elective courses. And I took what I could within the academic and dance schedule, which there was very little time. But I found what I could of acting and film classes. And again, it was the same thing where just like I felt most inspired by those classes. And so, yeah, when I graduated, I was nervous to pivot, but I sort of just felt like if I waited any longer, it, might never happen. And I didn't want to be like 65, sort of like wondering why I never tried. And not that, I think if you're 65 wondering why you never tried, like you should try.
Yeah.
It's very much worth it. But yeah, I just was like, the time is now, go for it.
So you decide to pivot at that point. What did you think was step one to becoming a professional actor? And now having done it, would you recommend that first step to another aspiring actor? Or did you find something more effective along the way?
Well, at the time, I was just out of college. The recession had ended, but it was a tough time. And I had to, I'm from San Francisco. I had to, I decided that it's like a smaller market. So there was more potential to potentially book work because like my priority at that time was to try and figure out how to sort of get some kind of financial backing, as one does after college or tries to for, us, millennium kids, it's like millennial kids, it's harder. But yeah, I moved back to, I moved home essentially, like a lot of us did after college, and just started like self-submitting for commercial work and anything I could using my dance resume. And then I got into classes and started really diving deep into training and working with like play material and just kind of deepening my understanding of how to act. I think ideally, I always wish that I had sort of accepted that I wanted to be an actor earlier and like gotten sort of that conservatory training, but for the thing that I wanted to do. But you never know. I may have also like burnt out from that at an early age, and I don't know. And
your training in another art form makes you your own unique performer now, too. I feel like if every single actor out there went to a conservatory, we would just, we would have, very talented artists, of course, but a bunch of people who did the exact same thing and grew the exact same way. And it would make this space a lot, less exciting to me, at least.
Well, yeah. And I think like there's also so much that dance has given me. And like, I think a lot of art forms really do cross over in a beautiful way. You see musicians pull off phenomenal performances when they're given the chance to act in something. And so I think there is, it's less, the arts can be less siloed than they are. And sometimes the university experience is like a siloing, unless it's a really good program like with Tisch, where we were able to kind of like merge learnings. But yeah, I always wish I had started earlier, but I also like, who knows what would have happened if I did? And like, things are going pretty great. So maybe I should just not worry.
I understand that mentality all too well. And then I stop and realize I would not be sitting in this seat if I didn't take the exact path I did. So you know what? I'm going to embrace it.
Yeah.
So going back to some of your earliest credits, this is a bit of a big question, but I do think it's an important one, especially because when you're starting out in this industry, you just want to get as much experience and take on as many things as you possibly can to start to build a resume and also introduce yourself to the industry. But I'm curious, of all your first credits, What was the first one that made you feel like, yes, this project shows me to this industry in a way that I want to be seen?
Wow. I think maybe the project that has made me feel most like this industry is seeing me in a way I want to be seen is this film. But the first job that I got that made me feel like, okay, I think I can be a working actor was the series that I did called Unreal. And that moment, I remember that very distinctly, that like booking that job for me was like, I mean, I'm always afraid I'll never work again, but I remember feeling like, oh my God, like this is possible for me. And I have a real job. And then immediately I was afraid I would get fired for like the entirety of that project. but that for me was like, okay, I have like one foot in the door and this might be feasible to like continue to work for at least maybe the next few years or something. But I think in terms of, it's not just because I think, there is a really wonderful positive response about this film already, but I think it's not just because of that. I think it's a character that I think Joan is a hero of mine, and to have any sort of connection to her in this has been really beautiful for me, and to work with Jim and everyone, Timmy, and that's just been such a gift.
You all deliver so big. So this is a question I ask quite often, but I kind of like how it helps us teeter into this movie, because I was reading quotes that James said about you and Timmy in particular in our press notes that I think leans into this a little bit. Of all the actors you've ever worked with, can you tell me someone who had like the most similar approach to the work as your own, where the second you met, you just knew you were immediately in sync? But then I also want the opposite, someone with a completely different approach who challenged you to adapt and maybe even try something new and for the better.
Well, this might sound a bit self-aggrandizing, but I found working with Tom Cruise to be really exceptional. He has a meticulous attention to detail. He's a perfectionist. He strives for a work ethic and level that is unparalleled. I don't think I'm quite as, his commitment level is like beyond anyone I've ever seen. But I think that is like, for me, watching his work ethic, I was like, that's the pinnacle of hard work. And I felt really embraced by the process of working on that movie, because he made sure we got, like I say, like training first. He made sure we got tons of training for flight. It was like a really comprehensive understanding as well. We got flight school on the ground as well as in the air, and all of these things that feed into performances that really feel like pilots. And you can't convince everyone in the industry that like you need that kind of specificity and work in order to develop a character. And he gifted us that. And he gifted us, no other actor, I think, could convince a production company to let another 6 to 8 actors like get in planes. And so that I found to be just like really incredible, and was like what I was hoping for, I think, in this industry. I was like, that would be a dream, to be so completely committed to it that you just dive in. And then in a very different way, but also a really inspiring way, Arnold Schwarzenegger plays my father on this show that I'm on, and he has he's also an incredibly hard worker, but he has a very laid back approach about a lot of things. He doesn't ask a lot of questions. Like he sort of tailors the information he needs. And sometimes I feel like I ask too much, I let too much in. And I think like he sort of establishes a boundary with the work that I think is really healthy and allows him to do all kinds of work in other fields as well. And so they're not like direct opposites, but I think that was just really interesting in that pocket of like a couple of years of working with the two of them, just how completely different your approach can be. And you can still be like a 90s action star.
So part of the reason why I really wanted to
current action star.
Those are great examples. The quote that really struck me in our notes that that James had said about the two of you is like, when you're looking for actors to play against each other, you're looking for actors who have a different core energy. Monica brings this kind of gravity, strength, and sense of self, and Timmy is always finding which way he's going to attack scenes. Did you find that he had a different way of tackling the scenes compared to your own? And if so, how did that kind of enhance the energy that we now see in the finished film?
You know, it's so interesting. A producer on our film was saying this to me the other day about like a confidence and a core energy. And I feel like I think I'm maybe like a duck on water where I'm gliding, but my feet are paddling. I think I maybe appear more as though I have more certainty than I do. But
it's so incredibly relatable. I'm not going to get that out of my head now.
I know right now I'm like calm but sweating. I think, yeah, you know, I think what was really cool about doing this work with Timmy is that we are two characters. We sort of held true to our characters and our experience of knowing each other. We're sort of like getting to know each other now and in the post process. And it's really fun and he's lovely. But as we approached this work, it did feel like the things I've read Joan say about Bob, where he's in his world and he's processing decisions and I asked him at one point if he was even like writing, because he had that energy of like looking for words and finding, new ways to express all of what was going on inside of him. And I found that really fascinating. And it put me in a place of observation and Joan's always drawn a lot. And I started as we were filming this, like I was drawing and I was sort of leaning into the pieces that the kinds of like process work that would just bring me that calm and sense of certainty, because I think similarly, she feels like she's a duck paddling, but she has a presence that is, I think, very magnetic because there is like this calm certainty to her somehow. And so I think our processes were so different, and it allowed for a bit of that push and pull that I think people feel when they see Bob and Joan. So yeah, but the two of us didn't really even talk about our process that much. We just sort of got together and started playing the music in our first rehearsal and then just like hit the ground running.
That approach is mighty effective in the film. I wanted to go back to the training, train to sing and to play guitar, because I feel like it's so easy to think about that in the broadest strokes. Like you learn to do those skills, but it's completely different to learn to sing and play like a specific person. So what would you say are the biggest difference between learning broad strokes versus learning to sing and play guitar like Joan?
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because in a lot of acting, a fun process can be finding a person. Even if you're not playing that person, I think we often use our power of observation and the people around us to inform decisions when it comes to like putting together sort of a brand new character, new person, along with whatever's on the page and, you know, the director's vision and all of that. But when it comes to playing a person, there's of course learning them. And as far as Joan is concerned, she has written a lot about herself and she's done loads of interviews. She's very honest about herself. So I was let in a really big way, even before I ever spoke to her. There's also, when you're playing not just a person, but a person who has a following as big as hers, there's the pressure of knowing that people really know Joan. And in some of our screenings, people have come up to me and been like, oh, I knew Joan, or I've seen her in concert, or I'm obsessed with her and I've, followed everything she's ever done. And so there's definitely an added pressure to that. And for that, you just want to like honor the person that people see in her as well. And you want to honor the mannerisms and the voice and the way that she specifically played guitar. Sometimes there are things in a story like this where the story is taking sort of more of a creative license. And like, for instance, Joan, a lot of times when she duetted with Bob, she didn't have a guitar, but it was important to Jim for her to maintain a certain level of autonomy in those scenes. And she didn't do two guitars because she felt it looked kind of commercial. I think that's how she sort of explained it in her album and stuff. But I appreciated that Jim was really enjoyed the image of Joan with a guitar, and he liked her maintaining that autonomy. So then the next thing was, of course, to figure out how we work our guitars together and share a mic. And so there's a lot more of like an upheld guitar than she maybe had in performances. Although there's like a kind of small harp that she played that she held that way. So I felt like, okay, that kind of relates. And it's just an interesting push and pull with like fact and fiction, I think, and creative license and just hoping at the end that it still is recognizable to people who love her and to her, that there's like that authenticity there. But that you also just have to give way to the story and what, Jim is going for and how he envisions Joan and in her relationship with Bob. And, so there's a lot of push and pull between all of those elements.
That's like the greatest challenge of a biographical drama is to make sure you are doing the true people justice, but also making sure that, you make it a creatively fulfilling experience for yourselves and everyone out there by making it your own, because you are all unique artists. And like, we want to see you all bring your voices to these people and this world. For what it's worth, I think you all do that exceptionally well here. I have to wind down with you soon. So in order to tap into at least one more scene in the movie, I'll try to get at it this way. Of all of the scenes in A Complete Unknown, which did you think was going to be the most challenging for you to pull off? And ultimately, was it? Or did something else catch you by surprise?
I think the most challenging scene for me was singing House of the Rising Sun, because it's totally alone up there on stage, because I admired Joan's voice so much. Her voice is so beautiful. Her rendition of that is second to none. And it's singing, which I didn't do. And there's no scene partner, it's sort of monologue-like. But all has to keep within a rhythm of the song. And that for me terrified me the most. And I think ultimately was the most difficult.
You just said singing, which I didn't. Did you have no idea that you could sing quite like this?
Yeah, no. I mean, I sing around, but not really much in front of people. I don't do karaoke. Like I'm not a singer, but I like it. I did not have experience with that before.
They truly took my breath away, the first note you sing in this film. I have to end with, I could talk about your work and this movie all day long, but I have to get to our very last Ladies' Night question. We ask this in every single interview.
Thank you for saying that, by the way.
I mean it. So in this industry, we give each other awards. I think that is super cool. We should always keep doing that. But I find that nobody ever tells themselves good job as much as they should. So can you tell me something you do in A Complete Unknown that you'll always be able to look back on and say, you know what? I am so proud of what I did there.
Yeah. For me, learning guitar was monumental. I had a moment where I was playing Don't Think Twice, which is not an easy song to play on guitar. I was playing it at tempo, finally, playing it actually a little bit above tempo, and it was just going. And I just started crying because I couldn't, there were so many times throughout this process, I knew in my mind, like, you're gonna figure this out. at least make it believable. But I think there was also a part of me that was terrified I would never actually be able to learn how to do that. And when I did, and I realized that just hours and months dedicated to this actually like created that skill. And I loved the sound of the song and all of it. I just, that was a very emotional moment for me. Of course, you barely see me play it in the movie. So there's a similar finger picking style in there, but for Fortune, and I was like, Jim, you better have that frame on my hands because I learned how to do this, damn it.
Oh, you should be so proud of that and everything in this film. I can't say it enough. It's something else. I'm going to say thank you for joining me on Collider Ladies Night. Congrats on everything you've accomplished on A Complete Unknown and everything coming your way in the future. Come back to Ladies Night soon.
Yeah, I'd love to. Thank you so much.